Our task today is to install a machine, to level, to install a machine. And in our case, we're going to be installing an independent machine. Millwright manual calls a lathe as an independent machine. It could also be a sole plate or a base plate. The procedure is the same for sole plate, base plate, or an independent machine, which is, in our case, a lathe. Before we commence with an installation, we're going to talk about PPEs. And in my case, I'm protecting my body. I'm wearing an overall, it's tight fit overall. My sleeves are all done up, all my buttons done up. I'm wearing a hat. In this case, it's the hard hat. I can also wear a bum hat to protect my head as I'm crawling around equipment, in maybe possibly in tight spaces. I'm going to be protecting my head, and I'm going to wear gloves to protect my hands because we're not working around rotating equipment. The machine is going to be locked down, so therefore I'm going to wear my work gloves. And last of all are the work boots that you are required to wear by Work Safety C. I'm going to go over some of the tooling that we will be using. First of all is the carpenter's level. We would not use carpenter's level for precision alignment because it's not sensitive enough. But we will use carpenter level to bring the machine up to a certain elevation, which will be achieved by using theodolites, which you should be aware how to use by now. Once we brought the machine up to the rough level, we're going to use precision levels. And in this example, the sensitivity of this level is 0.02 millimeters over 1 meter, which is approximately 0.002 tenths of a foot. So I'm going to be using 2 precision levels because I'm going to be leveling my independent machine in 2 planes. Then I'm going to be using open box wrenches. And last of all, I'm going to be using a pry bar to bring the base to a required elevation when leveling. I'm going to show you how to adjust a precision level. So I took my level and I cleaned again. I cleaned the surfaces, made sure that both surfaces are perfectly clean. I placed my level and I can see that the bubble is in that position. So now I'm gonna mark using a marker, I'm gonna mark the position of the level. And I'm going to pick up the level and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees and place it back into the area marked with the marker previously. So now I can see that my level, the bubble, is right in the middle. So that corresponds to the bubble position before turning level 180 degrees. If the bubble was out in one of the positions, then I would use adjusting screw right here and I would move it in or out to make sure that eventually I have to have bubble in exactly the same position when I rotate the level. That's the procedure for adjusting the levels. We are at the machine to be installed right now, and as you can see, looking at the floor, we had a layout done. So the center line, I laid out the center line, and then using 2 methods, you can lay out where the holes for the base are going to be. Before you are ready to install an independent machine, it is always a good practice to to have your precision levels brought up to the same temperature as the shop where you are working. So therefore I left my levels overnight to have the same temperature because of the sensitivity, and in this case my independent machine as well as the levels are up to the same temperature. Now I've got my machine or independent machine placed in position, and it's placed on already established concrete, but as you know, no concrete could be poured perfectly. So it's the whole surface of concrete is level. So therefore we have to level the base of an independent machine to perfect level, and that's what we are starting to do right now. As you can see, this machine has leveling screws and machine rests on the pad. So the leveling screws, they protrude past the casting and they push on the leveling pad. So I'm gonna level this base using 4 bolts around the machine. So there are 4 bolts around the machine, and I have to adjust these screws, leveling screws, either turning them in or backing them up, and making sure that the level is good, is perfect for a certain elevation. In this case, you may have elevation of 1 inch off the floor for this particular machine, but it could be different elevations which you have to bring this machine up to while it's leveled. Another way the machine could be installed, this is more applicable to the base plates or sole plates, is having an anchor point. So this is the anchor, mechanical anchor. A hole will be drilled in the concrete, and the anchor will be set first. Then machine will either be placed right above the anchor, and then you will have a threaded rod going through the casting of the machine into the threaded anchor. And then you have to shim the base of the machine, and then once the base is shimmed to proper elevation and the whole base is leveled, then the nut will be tightened down, and that's another way to install a machine. In either case, in spite how the base is made, you always have to watch for a soft foot. I'm going to demonstrate what a soft foot looks like, and any leveling you're performing, you have to check for soft foot, which means all 4 anchoring points should be holding the weight of the machine evenly. This is a demonstration, exaggerated demonstration of a soft foot. The lathe seems to be solid, but a slight push, I'm not applying any force to it, just using my 3 fingers, and I can rock the lathe, which means it has a soft foot. Since I know that the base is not holding the weight evenly, there's a soft foot as I demonstrated previously, and therefore I'm going around the machine base, and I have 4 screws to deal with, and I just found out that the screw in the back corner is holding no weight, and I used my open box wrench to tighten the screws a little bit just to feel if they're all 4 screws holding weight evenly. I have just eliminated the soft foot by applying pressure on the leveling screw that wasn't holding any weight. Therefore, machine is sitting solid, and I can go ahead and start leveling the machine. So next, I took my precision levels, and I made sure again that they are up to the same temperature as the equipment, and I made sure that the surfaces where I'm putting levels are clean. It has to be very clean, and I slowly place my precision level on the machine. As you can see, the bubble is not in the middle between 2 long lines, therefore I have to level it in that axis. For my second plane, I'm using similar level, and again I clean the surface of the level, and I clean the surface of the machine where the level is going to be placed onto, and I'm going to place my level on the machine. And you can see again that the bubble is way out of being in the middle of the level. Therefore, I have to adjust the level in second plane as well. So at this point, I went around all 4 screws and I made very slight adjustments to bring machine up to level in 2 axes. So I'm using 4 screws to bring machine base to level. Let's take a look at the leveling devices and see what happened there. As you can see, the bubbles are in the middle of the graduating scale, and therefore the machine is leveled in 2 axes, 2 planes. I've got the base leveled at the front end of this machine, and some machines they could be very long in this plane going that way. Therefore, you have to check for level every part of the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my levels and I'm going to bring them over to the very far end of the machine to make sure that there's no twist in the machine. At this point, I've got my levels moved to the other end of the machine, and I'm going to check for level and twist. And I can see there's a slight twist in this plane, and I'm going to fix that twist by adjusting other screws provided on the machine, so that when I move the levels back and forth, I'll have exactly the same level for the front and for the back. And next, I'm going to tighten down the leveling screws. I'm going to lock them down. And the last part of installation is to make sure that the adjusting screws are locked down, and we've got locking nuts provided. So I'm going to tighten the locking nuts to prevent the leveling screws from vibrating out. At this point, if we had a base plate or a sole plate, we would commence with pouring concrete inside the base plate or a sole plate.